welcome to Centre Court. Thanks to TAC. How safe is your car? Well, it's been one half of the 2 bye weekends that we do have. There were still obviously netball games, and one player, she's back. She's back on Centre Court as my co-host, but she's not back in the studio yet. Ash Brazill, where do we find you today?
Hey V, I'm in the sunny coast. We're in a new hotel across the road from the beach. You can see that I've got the boogie board in the background and it cost me $5 from the op shop, but loving it up here, but super excited to get home, hopefully after Lightning's game.
So you play Lightning this week, and then is the plan to fly straight back to Melbourne? Now Melbourne is opening up again?
Yeah, that's what the plan is. We've been told that we should have our bags packed ready to fly out straight after the game. So, yeah, I think that's the plan. Hopefully it goes to plan, because I think that's where we're at the moment. It's like we've said, we live day by day not knowing what we're going to do, but this seems pretty set in stone. And for us, we're just hoping that the Adelaide border opens hopefully this week or next week, because otherwise I'm not quite sure what will happen with our game.
Well, I believe,
fingers crossed.
I don't know, I don't want to break the news to you, but I believe the borders between Victoria and Adelaide are opening up by this weekend. So that could be good for you guys in the following week. But there's been...
Bianca, I don't believe anything now until it actually happens. Being on the road, you think something's going to happen and then something else blows up. But that's what we've heard, and I hope it happens, because I think all of us are ready to get home, especially Louis. I think he misses all of his toys at home.
No doubt. Listen to me thinking that I'm going to break the news and like I'm some government official. Anyway, let's just hope that's what happens, because I want to get back to the netball as well. There's been a lot going on, and we thank you all for following along, especially on the socials. And don't forget to tag us, hashtag Centre Court Netball, or our handle, which is at Centre Court Show. We love reading your tweets. And with only 2 games of netball, there hasn't been a huge amount going on really in the netball world, but it's now time to get to the agenda thanks to TAC. Make safety features a priority in your next car. Howsafeisyourcar.com.au. Now, I must mention off the top, we've got a very special guest coming up on the show. She's someone that loves her socials as well. I'm not going to give it away, but I think she's pretty much the queen of social media when it comes to netball. Would you agree, Brazzy?
Oh, I think so. And going off Twitter last night, I'm pretty sure she's excited, and I think a few people have guessed who it is.
No, absolutely. Anyway, back to our first agenda point, and that is exactly what I want to talk to you about, the split rounds. We've had 2 games last weekend. Both games were quite a blowout, with the Swifts having a huge win against the Firebirds. They are certainly back in hot form, and it is great to see. And then the Giants had a really huge win against the Thunderbirds. So I thought the Thunderbirds were building to something. I gave them so much credit last episode, and the Giants were just far too good. And then you guys have been sitting around ready for this weekend, where you take on the Lightning and the Vixens take on the Fever. Do you like it the way it is at the moment, a split bye round where there's only 2 games each weekend? Would you prefer just a whole weekend off for the whole league? Where does it sit with you?
Listen, V, I'm a netball nerd. So for me, on my bye round, I actually did watch the netball. So I quite liked being able to sit back, relax, watch the netball and not have to stress about my own game. So for me personally, I quite liked it. I think where we're going to have problems with the split bye round is not our game this week, but probably the next round. You're going to have teams match up that are coming off a bye and a team that are coming off a game. So will that make the team that have played the following week better, or will the team be better having that week off? So that's where I'm excited to see, is there a change? I'm excited that I am the team that are going game after game rather than game by game. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Oh, you bring up an interesting point about the momentum as well, that, you know, it really can halt your momentum as a team when you have that weekend off. When you go up against Lightning, you know, how have you been spending 2 weeks preparing for this game, or do you get an actual mental and physical break during this bye weekend for you guys last weekend?
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky. I think the Players Association the last couple of years have pushed really hard that every single team get 4 days off minimum. So we got to enjoy those 4 days off, and we weren't allowed to be touched by a coach, talked to by a coach, which in an environment where you're in your own little bubble, your own little hub, it is hard because, you know, obviously if you're coming off a loss, I think a coach will want to make sure you're training non-stop through the bye round, but that's no longer allowed. So I think it's great for the athletes. For us being away, I think that was the best thing that we could have done, because as much as I love my team, being with them 24/7 for over a month now, it does become a bit full on. So it was nice to just step back and enjoy that time. But like, so grateful that we have such a strong players association to get those 4 days off.
Yeah, definitely. And what did you get up to? I saw some of the Magpies hanging around at the theme parks up there.
Yeah, we went down to the Gold Coast. And I said that I wanted a break from my team, but then spent the first day at the theme parks with them. So that was a lot of fun. It was great to see, for me, Shimona Nelson on the rides. I think she screamed from start to finish. And I think I laughed from start to finish. But then the next 3 days, Brooke, Louie and I stayed in the Gold Coast and just had some family time, which was really nice.
All right, let's go on to our next agenda item, and that is an update really on the COVID situation that is happening in Sydney right now. You speak about the Players Association. Has there been some more calls around what's happening in Sydney and how that's going to affect the netball? I guess the bonus is both Sydney teams played last weekend, so they are scheduled to have this weekend off. Are you hearing any more than what we are at the moment?
Hearing nothing, V. Like I said, we've only found out that we'll be going back to Melbourne on Saturday, and that's just fingers crossed it happens like that. But watching the news this morning, seeing that the Swans and the Giants, both AFL teams, are now out of Sydney. They got out as quick as they could. I can only assume that both Swifts and Giants will see them leaving New South Wales pretty soon, because the cluster there seems to be growing pretty quickly.
Everyone come to Melbourne. More netball in Melbourne. We've all missed it so much.
I think it's time that Melbourne gets something, because it's been a while, and I know we're excited to get home. So I'm assuming that all of our fans as well can't wait for us to get home as well.
Another player, we talk about Sydney, and there's a player that's playing for the Giants, also played with the Magpies, and she is in, I think, career best form. Even after coming back from having her son Clay, April Brandley is absolutely killing it out there on court at the moment. What have you made of her game, especially on the weekend? She was just so dominant in defence.
Oh, April's just on fire. And I think what I've loved about April's career is I've known April since we were 16, going through state representative teams, but she's playing her best netball. And it was, I think when she found out she was pregnant with Clay, when she was still with the Magpies, her game went to another level. And we joked with her going, you know, like, it's just because you've got all these extra hormones and like, how good is it to be pregnant playing? But she's backed it up. She's had Clay. She's playing amazing with the Giants. The fact that she's getting the most intercepts, she's getting deflections. She's got a wing woman in Amy Parmenter next to her. So it's a strong defensive line to get across. But the way April's playing, I was lucky enough to catch up with her in Sydney when we were in our hub down there. And she just talked about how nice it is now you play a game, you go home, and she's with Clay, so netball's over. Like, it's all she has to worry about is netball is when she's there, where in previous years she'd go home, she'd think about netball. She moved to Perth for netball, she's moved to Canberra for netball, she's moved everywhere around Australia for netball, but now she's settled in home, she's got her little boy, she's got her husband, and yeah, the fact that she gets to think about netball when she's there and then think about home when she's at home, I think that's the best combination for April. And we're seeing it on court. So I'm hoping she doesn't play that well against us, but we'll wait and see.
And another question that I saw raised on Twitter during the game actually was around whether April has nominated for the Diamonds or not. So for those at home and don't know how it works, at the start of every season, if you are eligible to play for the Diamonds, you actually get asked. You can fill out a form to say that you don't want to be considered for squad selection, or you don't, and you just put your name out there and see what happens. So quite often, you know, most people won't even fill out that form because they, you know, of course want to play with the Diamonds. But April has played for the Diamonds already, and the conversation was around, has she put her hand up or not? Braz, one, do you know if she has or not? But two, what do you think she should do? Do you think she should put her hand up for the Diamonds? Or like you said, her life has really got this great balance and that's helping her play so well. Potentially that could add a whole nother layer of pressure that might not be helpful for her in her game.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I don't know personally if April's done it or not. Going off her form, 100% I'd say, mate, go for Diamonds. I think she'd be a shoo-in easily. But I think, you know, there's what other people, like other parents out there would understand is your life is no longer about you being an athlete. You get to be selfish for pretty much your whole life, your whole career. But once a baby comes along, it's not just about your career anymore. It's what's best for them. How much time have you spent away from your baby, but also your husband. I think that's the biggest thing for me. Like, that's one thing that I think about now is, you know, I'm away. I'm being very lucky that I've been able to take Brooke and Louis away with me, but so much about their life is involved around what I do, and at what point does it change where you get to make it about them? And I think that's something April will think about. But yeah, being someone that loves watching Australia win, I really hope April puts her name forward. But yeah, I think family comes first, and that's something April have to think about.
The bigger picture, absolutely. And we know that the SSN is halfway through the season now, but over the other side of the world, they are heading into finals. And this is how the finals are shaping up. We've got the Loughborough Lightning, who are coached by Sarah Bayman, and Leeds Rhinos, coached by Aussie Dan Ryan, and also Manchester Thunder taking on Team Bath. So some pretty exciting matches to go. We know all of you netball fans are loving what's going on over in the Super League too. So keep an eye on that. They're getting right to the end of the season, no doubt, are going to go straight into their English Roses prep, which will be interesting. The more time that they get to prepare together, the better they are going to be. That was.
I'm just impressed. Sorry, so I'm cutting you off again.
No, go
I'm
for
just
it.
impressed.
Cut me off.
I'm impressed that their league has gone ahead. So big shout out to England Netball, because the fact that they've had their league go ahead with all the number of cases with COVID. I know that they've obviously had the vaccine before us, but I can't believe how many numbers they get daily, but they're still living life the way they are. They're still going to training, and they're now at finals level. So well done to Netball England, and good luck for the 4 teams still left in it.
Absolutely. That was the agenda. Thanks to TAC. How safe is your car? It's now time to get to the nitty gritty. Thanks to Lexus of Berwick, your hybrid destination of choice. Visit lexusofberwick.com.au. Now, there's been a really interesting and sad story that's come out of a local netball club in Adelaide. Now, I'm not sure, I think it's about an hour out of Adelaide. It's Tailem Bend Netball Club, and they're a rural club, and I want you to take a look at what their courts look like beforehand. They had, you know, those old asphalt courts where they're ripped up. You can see there's stuff all over the courts. You can barely see the lines. And this club went to all the hard work to raise money. They had to raise 150 grand to be able to resurface all of their courts, you know, to allow the netball to go on. Here's the courts resurfaced. They got some government funding. They managed to raise the $150,000. And Braz, get this, due to hackers that hacked into the email system and mocked up invoices so that the builder sent the netball club the invoice, the netball club are like, we love our courts, no worries, we've got the money, transfer it straight to them. And then a couple of weeks later, the builders are like, oh, we haven't been paid yet. And so sad. But they were hacked, their email system, which meant an invoice that was done by the hackers was sent to them. They paid the invoice thinking it was the builders, and $150,000 has now gone, completely gone. And of course, the builders need to be paid for their work as well. So it's just a really sad situation when everyone was only trying to do a good thing and get netball back going and as much netball that can be played in that area. So what they've done is they have set up a GoFundMe page, and they're trying to raise as much money as they can to just recover some of those costs. So at the moment, they've raised nearly $7,500. They're trying to raise $50,000 on their GoFundMe page. And I know the local council have given them a loan, but they've still got to obviously pay that back. So if anyone out there has any money to give, we would love you to think about the Tailem Bend Netball Club, and just we'll put the link here. It'll also be on all our socials in the bio, so check out that link, and if there is anything that you can give, I think it would be really, really helpful for a club who's going through such a hard time when, oh gosh, how do we stop these hackers? It's just crazy what they can do right now and the damage that they can do, and we all just have to be super careful.
Yeah, and come on, Netball World, I think this is really important. It's not just this is for the young generation, the kids, they're playing because they just love the sport. I think it's really important that we get behind this because it's terrible, and I can't imagine how stressful it would be for the president, the secretary, all of those people who are just volunteers themselves. So I think, yeah, we need to get behind this because it's devastating, and it's sad that this is what we have to live through now in our life.
Absolutely.
And it's just something fun for kids.
That was the nitty gritty, all thanks to Lexus of Berwick. Make sure you jump onto that link for their GoFundMe page to help if you can. It's now time to get to the social scoop. Now, we promised you we'd have a special guest for you today, and we absolutely do. She is the queen of social media when it comes to netball, and I think it was last year that we really got introduced to this girl, and she absolutely dominates it. She not only tackles some of the funny stuff, but she also tackles some of the serious issues, and I love how much netball she is across, because I can't even keep up with her, how much netball she actually watches. But please welcome to Centre Court, Emmy Blair. Thanks for joining us, Emmy.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm so starstruck right now. This is crazy.
I wanted to ask you off the top, because I've said it to you before on socials, how do you get across and watch all the games, not just SSN, but all the leagues? You watch New Zealand League, you watch the English League. How do you actually have enough time?
Well, yeah, it's kind of funny that, isn't it? I probably don't have the time, but I make the time. So it just kind of happens, falls into place, probably neglecting other elements of my life, but netball is life, right?
Right, yeah.
Netball is life. It's like a hashtag.
Oh,
But how I want to know, like, does your boyfriend get involved in watching the netball? Because for me, just doing my homework in my game seems like it takes up my whole life. So I can't imagine what your boyfriend, do you guys ever hang out?
No, not really. Like, it's kind of good like that. Like, I feel like I don't nag him, so he doesn't nag me. So he's got his things, I've got my things. Like, he doesn't dislike netball, but he's definitely not like my level netball fan. So it's kind of, yeah, we've got our balance, right?
So we know, Emmy, you've always loved the game like we have, and you've played the game a lot and you still play the game. What made you start the social part of it all, where you know, last year I think was the first time that I started to see your TikToks, and, you know, I don't think anyone's really had fun with the sport like you have. Like, that was the first time where, you know, all the little kind of storylines and all the funny things that happen that a lot of just get missed and no one really talks about. But the fact that you were actually highlighting it and celebrating it in a positive way too, you know, what made you actually start that up?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in Melbourne we were like in a sort of a very deep lockdown at that stage, and we weren't playing. And I guess there was a really cool tweet that my friend Georgia shared the other day, and it was like, when fans sort of aren't getting what they're looking for, maybe from the leagues, they create their own communities and they create their own like microcosms. So I think, like, especially in Melbourne, when we were all just sort of so bored out of our brains, and, you know, having that midweek netball was a real saviour for us. Yeah, I guess, like, we were able, like, it's not just me, like, there's a whole sort of netball Twitter is so amazing. People are doing so much creative stuff on there. And I guess just exactly like you're saying, like, we want to know about the nuances of the players, and we want to pick up on those, like, you know, funny, special things that make the game so unique. Yeah, and I guess pairing with that, just having a whole lot of time on my hands.
And I actually reckon since you've done all of this TikToks, which we loved last year, especially me being in lockdown with you, they were hilarious. But I feel like since you've brought this element of fun, the other clubs have actually lifted their game on social media as well. Do you feel like you're getting more interaction from the clubs? And if not, and even if so, what do you think we should be doing more for the fans? Because you mentioned that, you know, sometimes you don't get enough. What should we be doing?
Yeah, I definitely agree, Ash. And, like, I wouldn't attribute that to, I mean, maybe you're right, but I think clubs have definitely stepped it up a level. Like, we've got your amazing mate on the New South Wales Swifts Twitter. Like, she's awesome and just like so refreshing and so like something that we've been craving, you know, that interaction and that normalcy, and that I think netball has the potential to be like the most relatable sport because it's played by so many people and it has so many like cool nuances about it. And I think that the clubs are really starting to hone in on that relatability, which I think is missing a lot from perhaps like the league levels. So, yeah, like they don't really engage with fans as much, but clubs really do. And like, you know, clubs send me stuff, clubs repost my stuff, they invite me to events, and like, yeah, I think you're right. They really have stepped up a level, and that's what the fans want. Like, we love the players, we adore the players. Like, we want to see more about them and, see them as people and, that like relatable content that everyone's craving.
Is there been a club that hasn't sent you gear?
Yeah, I have got a list. So
I think Collingwood will be one.
Collingwood is one, but I did already have Collingwood merch because like Collingwood was my OG team, so I will let them off the hook.
Nah, don't. You just keep slamming them. I'd be expecting more. Those are the memberships.
Right?
Brad,
that's me. Like I'm always. People always say like, "Are you going to do a TikTok about this club?" Huh?
I'm embarrassed, Emmy and Bianca. I'm very sorry. I'm going to get onto them straight away.
Yes.
I'm going to send you my dress.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
All right, let me get my list so I can tick it off.
Yes. Who else? What other clubs? Come on.
So Swifts, Thunderbirds and Giants. And like Thunderbirds probably won't be sending me much. But I have been getting on the Giants bandwagon hardcore this year and I think they are noticing. So Julie follows me now. So I think me and Julie are friends again after a kind of wavy 2020 for us.
And that's because, you did like her outfit last year, did you? Is that why she was not happy about?
I wouldn't say I didn't like her outfit. It just so happened that I had the exact same blouse in my wardrobe. So that's how it started with the Julie TikToks. But I think there was a lot of animosity because I'm a Seabass stan and I wanted to see her get more court time. But I also am willing to put that behind us and I am really thinking that Giants might go all the way this year. So
they actually could. If they become consistent, I think they actually could go all the way. You say that you're a Seabass fan. Yeah. Have you been watching her over in New Zealand? I know you have. Yeah. How is she going? Because I feel like a lot of people are missing how Caitlin is playing.
Yeah, like she's had some really good games. Like she's been in form. I think the team is still adjusting to like her best style of play. And I think that her knee is bothering her. Like I think that I do notice that she's a little bit more hesitant than she used to be. But I also think, we need to give her time to, settle into her new team. And above that, like, she is such a great leader on court. Like, she'll just communicate. She's still got the ball in her hand waiting to shoot. And she'll say, yeah, great feed. Like, she's just so, such a positive, I guess, figure on court, especially to the younger players that are around her. So I've been really enjoying seeing her over in New Zealand.
One thing that, Emmy, that I also really like, not just from yourself, but a lot of the netball Twitter community, is how you tackle some of the big issues. And you really do take it to, whether it's Marina Go or it's Super Netball itself. No, but I love how you actually, you take them on and you say what probably a lot of us want to say, but we probably can't, or we're not in a position to be able to say that. But you actually stand up there and you demand that the fans deserve better. And, whether that's been about, the super shot and the way the super shot came in, and I know that you're not a fan of the super shot, but, even just saying that, they came out and said that the fans really liked it when you were like, hang on a minute, no, we don't. Has that kind of just grown in the more that you've watched and enjoyed the sport, the more that you really want to demand that it does keep changing and that, they do listen to the fans?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like, you're exactly right, Bianca. They ask us questions that they don't want to hear the answer to. And so we sort of do give that overwhelming feedback. And then it's like ignored or, they come back and say, actually, the stats do show X, Y, Z, but then we don't actually see evidence of that. Like I saw a tweet this morning that it's actually been a year today since the super shot was implemented. But from what they wanted to achieve from that, which was like this imaginary fan base that is so into changing how the game is played and needing it to be more exciting or, different to how it was. What evidence do you have? Like, what are you going to show us that that's actually the case? Because there's actually evidence towards the fact that you're alienating your existing fan base. And at the same time, like, it could arguably be really detrimental to our national team, like, playing a completely different style of game at SSN level and then having to change up how you've been playing all year when you go internationally. So, I think, that fans are just feeling a little bit disenfranchised. Like, at that level, we're not listened to. We're kind of like overwhelmingly told we're a small vocal group of fans. And like Marina, for example, she went on a podcast over in the UK and kind of like talked smack about the Australian fans, or like we had to say. And and I mean, apart from that, like overwhelmingly, she doesn't communicate with us. So I'm guilty of being, I guess, maybe cheeky or, you know, like you're saying, holding those kind of level people in Netball Australia to account, but they don't really give us a seat at the table. And I think, that's where that frustration is coming from.
And I think like you bring up all these good points. And I think that when I was a junior going through playing with Swifts, playing for Fever, whenever we talked about marketing, it was how to market to a 7-year-old kid, a 10-year-old kid, where if you actually, like when you're on court and you look around, there are more adults than kids. And I don't think we really hit that target well. And I never understood it until Brooke was actually saying that to me. Like, yeah, there's so much for these little kids, but like look on Twitter, look on social media, look in your crowd. Majority of the people, the actual hardcore fans are adults. So what are we doing to keep you guys engaged? And that's why I love you, Emmy, is because you're actually doing that for us. But it's like you've shown us a different way, and you've shown us that you don't have to be serious all the time. You don't have to say the right things. Like take the mickey out of yourself, have a laugh. And that's one thing you talked about, Maddie at the Swifts. What she does really well is she's built that relationship with the girls that now she can actually laugh at a fall or a silly pass and things like that. And I think that, to me, is more engaging than a serious conversation with a player.
Definitely.
Have you had any players that either unfollow you or don't like to be part of it?
Oh, I wouldn't say like unfollow or don't like to be a part of it. Like, I'm still really trying to crack Courtney Bruce. So
she was my one person I was going to ask to follow you. Last year there was something, I forget what the TikTok was, but it was pretty funny, and I was like, that's definitely an unfollow.
It was being punched in the face by Sam Wallace, remember?
That's right.
But, you know, I'm like a Fever stan this year, so...
I know, you are really backing them in. You're like, anyone that talks about that salary cap, shut up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, there's salary cap and then there's like the players, and, you know, I don't want to see the players completely suffer for something out of their control. So I'm predicting a Fever Giants grand final, and still hoping by the time the grand final rolls around that I'll have Courtney Bruce as my friend, because I love her.
I'm going to give her a call for you.
Oh, thank you.
But who is like your actual team? Is there one team that stands out?
So I think you're breaking up. I can't quite get that question.
Vixens.
Come on, don't you dare say the Vixens. Because, Emmy, really, when you think about it, it's bribery, and you can't go for totally bribing you.
Yeah, but if you want to buy me off, Ash, just send me the merch.
Yeah,
come on.
Oh, mate, I'm sending you my dress. I don't know what I'm going to play in this week, but it's happening.
What have Magpies invited Emmy to? Nothing. Whereas Vixens have had her everywhere.
Bianca, I don't even get an invite to a Magpie thing. Like, come on.
What have you got planned?
It's going to happen.
What have you got planned going forward, Emmy? Have you got whether it's some TikToks, some videos that you want to put together? Are there anything standing out at the moment watching the games that you think, I need to do something with that?
You know, like, there's not enough controversy in SSN at the moment. Like, I feel like we need to go and get some of the girls to have a punch on at a kebab shop. So I've got like something to make a TikTok about. But no, really, Bianca, I'm not really like a planner. I sort of just like roll with punches as things come up. And usually it'll be like 3:00 in the morning. I'll sit up and think of an idea, and I really want to get up and make a TikTok. But then like I have to wait until the sun comes up because I don't have a ring light or anything. So like just have to make do with my limited resources. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to how the season unfolds and hopefully get some funny content out there for you guys.
You must have some serious props that you can just quickly pull out and pull together.
Yeah, well, like the different merch really helps. You know, I've got a lot of different merch, and I actually did like a big clean out before I moved house, so I don't have as many wigs. I used to have like a lot of wigs going, but need to do a savers run.
And where did this come from? Like the wigs, is that just, have you always been like into entertaining, or were they bought for TikTok?
No, when I lived with my sister, we had like a costume box and like just from costume parties. The Julie Fitzgerald wig I actually wore when I was Sharon Strzelecki. Went to a dress-up party. So I was lucky enough to have that red Julie wig, but I lost that in the move. So yeah, I'm really sad about that. But Julie did dye her hair blonde this season, and I feel like that was probably for me, like so that we can match when I imitate her.
Love it.
Love your work so much. Thank you so much for joining us, Emmy. It's been awesome to finally get to chat to you, and also just to, we love your work and we hope that you keep it up, because I think it's a huge part of our game. And the more it's happening on social media, the more the sport is going to be continuing to grow and get to the masses, and that's exactly what we need. So we look forward to all the content that's to come.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Brazzy, I cannot believe that no one hasn't got Emmy yet to either run their social media for the club. Maybe Netball Australia could have her as their social media coordinator. Although I'd be very worried that they'd tone her down a little bit and we wouldn't get all the good stuff.
You can't do that to
well.
her, B. No. You can't do it to her.
It's a lot of effort that she goes to, but so glad that she does it. All right, Brazzy, it's now time for Brazilliant.
Thank you, Bianca. And I am gutted that I'm not in the studio, because this week I've actually got two, because there were a few things. What do I do? I've just gone with the two. And my first one, shout out to the Queensland, government, but mostly the Lightning, is because what they've done here is they've gotten behind the Vixens, and I'm not sure if Peace and Maui are friends, but right here it looks like it. Maui has gone over to Peace's, and Peace is braiding Maui from Renda's hair, which I can't wait to see this week against the Fever, to see what it looks like. But this is what I love about netball. I know we're enemies on the court, but off court we're all good mates, and to see two internationals coming together just to hang out and be away from netball, I think that's great. So shout out to Peace. And the Lightning. I know they've been great help with us trying to find venues for the core and getting our gym sessions done. So it's been a great environment up here. And my second shout out goes to Stacey Francis, because one thing I love about her is that she does a blog all the time, and I think it's weekly, monthly, it comes out all different times, but it's Let's Be Frank, and she's always super honest about it. But this week she talks about online bullying, and she also talks about Pride Month and what her experience is. And for me, being a gay woman, reading something like this for me is massive, because she talks about, her experience, but talks about here, this is one of the quotes, is that she's never felt obliged to define herself in a certain category in relation to the aspects of my life, which has certainly added to my comfort around my sexuality. And for me, reading that, she just got married last year, and to read that and to feel like she doesn't have to define herself and say that she's gay, lesbian, bi, whatever, I think that's massive. And that's something that Brooke and I talk about all the time, because, I'm 100% gay. That's who I am. I was born that way. But Brooke, she always says she's not gay. She's just fallen in love with Ash, and that's it. And I think to see that with Stacey and to be proud about that, come out, and she's not ashamed of who she is. She's proud of who she is. I think for me, I've just got a whole new level of respect for Stacey. I'm so proud that she's come out and said that. So well done, Stacey. Keep up those blogs, because I love reading them and I love what you bring to netball.
Absolutely. And we saw also, I think it was even yesterday, over in America, a current NFL player has come out and said that he is gay. And it's the first time a current player has come out and said that. And I mean, I don't know whether it's a male sport thing, that it's, there's more pressure, more stress added to it. No one wants to be as honest and transparent. But since he's come out and said that, I believe his jumper that he wears is now it's sold out everywhere, because everyone just loved and owned the fact that he was honest and really appreciated that he came out and was so honest. And I think the more that we can, and I mean, some players too probably don't want to, they're not ready to as well. But how have you found it, Braz, as a player, as a gay player? To me, when I was in teams with you when you were young, you always just owned it. There was no question about it. You didn't care who knew, you just owned it from the very start. Was that always the way for you?
Yeah, and be just that player, the footballer is Carl Nassif from the Raiders. So I love that he's been able to come out and be so honest. With me, I think you talk about, is it harder for guys coming out? I actually just think it's hard being the first person because I think I was the first netballer at this level to come out and say in Australia, and I was so young and I knew who I was that I didn't see it being an issue. So it didn't bother me, and my parents have brought me up that you are who you are and you can't change that. And I didn't want to, and my parents didn't want me to have to live a lie to make other people happy. So I was just trying to be the person that I am today. But I think when it happens, you always think, especially when you've established yourself as a good player, one of the best players in the league, then to try and come out, that's when it's hard because you feel like that you being gay is going to overwrite who you are as an athlete and how your performance is. And yeah, you don't want to be known as the first gay player to come out rather than I'd rather be known as the best player, the best wing defense to ever play netball, or the best NFL player to ever play the position he was playing in. And so I think that's the risk that I guess players, especially men, have, because you don't want to lose the title you have as an athlete. But I feel like, especially in the AFL, I know we have no current AFL players coming out saying they're gay, but I honestly believe it will happen, and it won't be an older player. It's probably going to be a young kid who's drafted and he's already out to his friends and family. It's not going to be this big reveal. Let's have a press conference because I'm dating a guy. Like, it's so big. No, it's not big because everyone's got their own partner. It's their own story. It's away from the field. It's away from the court. Let it be, and let these athletes just perform and judge them as athletes rather than their sexuality. That's my biggest thing. And the reason I think a lot of male athletes aren't out currently.
That is so well said, Braz. And that was another episode and another version of Brazilliant, but one of your best ones, I think, yet. So thank you so much for bringing that to the table, because I think it's an important point to discuss and something for all of us to be much more aware of as well. Well, Brazzy, I hope you are going okay up there. I hope the game goes well for you this weekend. But more importantly, I hope you're back here at the desk with me next week.
Thanks, B. Really appreciate it. And fingers crossed, I can't wait to see you. I'll bring in the coffee. That's how much I love you.
Great. I love you too. I love this. There's so much love in this world. Thank you, Emmy, as well, for joining us. We love her and all the work that she does. That's another episode of Centre Court. We'll be back next week.